I'm Amanda Miller, and it's Friday, November 20th. So glad you can join us. Topping the news this half hour, environmentalists are concerned that the proposed amendments to the National Park Ordinance may not be safe for marine life, a big part of TCI's tourism product. Our Rodrigo Roll brings us the top story.
Wise use is a Pandora's box. It essentially means that if the government, this government or any government in the future decides that, for example, it would be good and wise to build a cruise ship terminal in the middle of Grace Bay, they could go ahead and do that and blast through the reef and dredge a 40-foot deep channel all the way up to the shore in Grace Bay.
Not everyone is for the amendments to be made to the National Parks Ordinance, following countrywide consultations to some of the country's most beautiful attractions via a wise use clause, a term that Director of DEMA John Clayton says has been highly misinterpreted.
I do understand, however, that in America, wise use has become a word that makes people skeptical and suspicious because it's been used in a number of instances to degrade the power of some environmental legislation. And I think people thought that about the word in this context, that it meant that anything could happen in any protected area, just as long as someone in government thought it was a good idea. But in this particular instance, it's specifically for the maintenance or allowing use of the channels, docks and marinas.
And if you weren't really sure about the exact changes to be made to the ordinance, it is Split Rock and Pirates Cove are being removed from the national park to allow a shipping dock to be built. Scilly Island and parts of Chalk Sound are being removed from the national park. Parts of Frenchman's Creek and Pigeon Pond Nature Reserve, which are crucial areas for juvenile marine life, are being removed from the national park. And Stark wasn't the only one with those concerns. Hope Levine was not ready to speak to media on the issue, but did give us the go-ahead to quote her in this letter addressed to DEMA. Quote, Frenchman's Creek is a crucial region for juvenile marine life and an area of spectacular beauty. It is a very unique series of wetlands with tremendous landscapes and home to several historical sites. Levine concluded asking officials to please reconsider the changes to the National Parks Ordinance and to not allow the development to unnecessarily destroy the islands. Clayton also addressed those concerns, calling the amendment to remove portions of Chalk Sound from the National Parks list a correction to a mistake made years ago.
A number of plots were delineated within these areas, and it was done without referring to the national parks system. So it was done erroneously, and these were sold, and a number of individuals spent a lot of their money, the biggest investment of their lives, on these residential plots. So there's also commercial plots which I believe Kathleen Wood and Don Stark are particularly opposed to delineation of those, or removal of those from the national park system. But these were sold and bought, and the idea is that it's correcting the mistakes of the past.
So how now do we ensure that these mistakes do not occur in the future?
I think it would be very difficult for that mistake to happen again. We have a much better system, a much better consciousness of our national parks system, and there's no way that Land and Survey now wouldn't be thoroughly cognizant of where the borders of national parks are. There's things have developed a lot since back then. So people's competence with GIS, the skilled people we have within government, I would like to say impossible that this would happen again.
Environmentalist Don Stark of the TCI Refund is one of those concerned that these changes will be disastrous to the TCI's national parks and unique marine life, and ultimately Provo's fishing industry. On another note, he mentions a number of beneficial amendments proposed by the department.
One is the proposal to make the Turks Bank a marine mammal sanctuary. It's a great idea. In fact, it should encompass the entire Turks and Caicos Islands economic enterprise zone. The other good thing that's in there is proposal to make the entire economic enterprise zone a shark sanctuary. but there's a limitation on it. It's only from the 100-meter depth area out.
Grand Turk residents are invited to a preliminary meeting on Thursday, November 26th at Dillon Hall at 7:30 p.m., which wraps up the sessions. Officials are receiving comments up until the end of next week. Comments can also be emailed to environment@gov.tc.